Chris, thank you. Parents may already worry about the negative impacts of too much video gaming, but now they have a new argument for limiting their children's screen time. According to the World Health Organization, video game addiction is now considered a mental health disorder. So we want to know if you're concerned about video game addiction. You can let us know by going to KARE11.com/vote now to weigh in. Meanwhile, I'm going to dive into this topic a little deeper in this morning's Digital Dive. So the World Health Organization describes addiction to digital and video gaming as a pattern of persistent or recurrent gaming behavior that becomes so extensive it takes precedence over other life interests. Research actually found some of the worst case scenarios where gamers playing for actually up to 20+ hours a day. These gamers would skip out on sleep, meals, work or school, and even other daily activities. The organization does recognize some of the positives of playing video games. They have educational, therapeutic, and recreational value when played safely. So we can ask again, are you concerned about video game addiction? It's kind of split, but right now more leaning towards yes.
I think that, it changes quite rapidly throughout the morning. When I looked down, there was 67 no. But the thing is, I was going to say that I think people don't probably take this as serious as other addictions yet anyway, right? So when you think of addictions, you don't think video games are that bad. But if you're missing work and
20 hours too,
meals,
that's definitely a problem.
If something's impacting your life, it's an addiction, right?